Using Google Slides, you can create simple but clickable diagrams that install into your course content in D2L or even embed in a Google site, such as you see here. This can be efficient and provide a little more interactivity when presenting text or image content via the web. In this video, I'll show you how to create a very simple version of this graphic. I'll create this demo graphic right here with just a few buttons and simple colors. But you can create much more sophisticated graphics and graphics that are much more clever or creative. I urge you to experiment with Google Slides to see what's possible and what might fit your needs. Let's create a slide that'll be our first slide or start page. It will have the menu, but the main content will be a simple instruction for viewers to click the buttons on the right. It'll also serve as our template for content slides, each of which will have a corresponding button on the right. First, I'll add a blank slide using the drop-down menu next to the plus button in the upper right. After that, I'll select the original title slide, right-click, and choose Delete. I could also use Delete button on my keyboard. I'd rather work with blank slides only. Next, I'll set a border color by setting the background color. I right-click on the slide and choose Change Background. Using the color drop-down menu, I can choose any of the colors that Google supplies, or I can add my own. In this case, I will add my own. I'll click plus under Custom, and in the hex code box on the following dialog, I'll add 0C234F, which is Canisius blue. Click OK. That looks good, so I'll click Done on the background dialog, and I have my background. Next, I'll create a box that will contain the content on each slide. I could create a simple text box using the text box tool off the toolbar, but instead, I'll use the shape box because Google will allow me to use this effectively as a text box. And in the Square Shapes menu, I'll choose a square with rounded corners. Then I'll click and drag to draw that box on the screen. I can modify the formatting for this box. So, in the upper left, you'll see a little yellow diamond. Click and drag that to adjust the corners. I can also change the color of the box's background or borders, and by so doing, eliminate borders altogether. So using the line color tool on the toolbar, border color, I'll simply choose that custom color, Canisius blue, which will cause the border to disappear. For the background, I'll use the Fill drop-down menu on the toolbar and choose white. Next, I'll double-click on this shape and it gives me a cursor to make it a text box. Once I have the text in place, I'll highlight it and then format it to my taste. So now I create the additional slides. Of course, I need a slide for each separate item or screen I plan to have as part of the interactive diagram. Okay, so I have a template for the rest of the slides, although I'll need to build the menu and add the menu after I create the additional slides. To create those slides off of this template, I'd like to have 4 slides, each with a separate definition and a button. So I need to duplicate this slide 4 times. I'll go over to the slide list on the left, right-click, and choose Duplicate Slide. And then I could use the Redo button up in the toolbar an additional 3 times to create the slides I need. Now, let's go back to the Start page and build the menu. First, I create a button. I can use the Shape tool to create the button and then format it, just like I did this content box. So I'll go to the Shape tool, use another rounded corner rectangle, and draw it out where I'd like it to be. I think the corners look good, so I don't need to make adjustments there. I'll change the colors to match the content box. Next, while I have this button highlighted, I'll use Copy-Paste tools to create duplicates. I need 4, one for each of my actual content screens. Then I'll arrange them, allowing Google to show me various marks that help me align them properly with each other. As I did with the content box, I double-click on these button boxes and type in the word or phrase that I want to find. Now that I have the text in place, I want to format each one of these consistently. What I'll do is click and drag so that I make sure that I've selected all of them, and then I can format the text in them all together. So I'll center it and choose a font and a font weight that looks good to me. And if I want, I can even choose a color. I'll use this Canisius blue, maybe boldface it too. Now, I want to convert each one of these into a clickable button that connects to a corresponding slide. So I'll click each of the button, careful not just to grab the text within them, but instead the whole button. And then I'll use this link icon up in the toolbar. Now, I could include a URL to anywhere on the web, for example, canisius.edu. In this case, I want to link this button to my second slide. So I'll click this drop-down menu for slides in the presentation. Now here I need to be careful to choose the correct slide. This is slide 1. I want to connect it to slide 2. So I'll choose slide 2. Then click Apply. Then I move on to the next button. Highlight, Link, choose the drop-down for slides in this presentation, and in this case I need slide 3. Apply. And so too with the other two buttons. I've created my menu and I want to copy it and paste it to each other slide. Now this requires that I'm careful to select all the buttons. So I'll click and drag a box over all of the buttons and make sure that they're highlighted as a group. Next, I'll use the copy-paste commands, either in the menu or using keyboard shortcuts, or perhaps right-clicking on this group and choosing Copy. I'll go to the next slide and I'll paste the button group, and for each of the other slides as well. Note that Google will install those buttons in exactly the same place on the other slides. This is nice, since when a user clicks the buttons, it appears that the diagram is the same except for the content in the main box. Now, it remains for me to populate each one of these slides with its appropriate main content. So if I test out my clickable graphic, I see that it's ready to go. If I'd like to make a change to this, say for example later I'd like to add another button, what I need to do is simply select the button menu on each slide, delete it, go back, add an additional slide, add an additional button, and then copy that new menu and paste it on each additional slide. So now to install this interactive diagram, for instance in a Google site or some other website, I need to determine what the sharing settings must be. Is this something that people should be able to see without logging in using any username or password? In that case, I'll go to Share, Get Shareable Link, and from the drop-down menu above the link, switch it to anyone with the link and click Save. Then I copy the link to install wherever I would like this graphic to appear. It's crucial that I set that sharing setting to anyone with the link so that when this appears, for example, in a parent Google site, anyone who visits that published Google site can also see this graphic.